I've heard quite a few times over the last year the F word, gay being used as an insult, and all these kinds of things. And I just think that actually, you wouldn't say that about. I just think that there needs to be better education for the language. There are millions, literally millions of ways of telling someone that you don't like them without using a homophobic slur. Well, I'm 26. I play professional ice hockey for the Manchester Storm in the Elite Ice Hockey League in the UK, the top league in the UK. And I guess to kind of link it into why I'm talking to you, January last year, the Elite League held their first league-wide Pride weekend. And I decided to tell kind of my story and come public with my sexuality and come out as bisexual.
How did coming out change your life? Or did it?
Straight to the point, I like it. No, it was... I don't like saying it because it's kind of a cliche and everyone says it. But it did just feel like that weight was lifted off my shoulders. And I don't like saying it because everyone says it, but it's so true.
It is true, though.
And I feel like personally it was, quite a lot of my teammates knew, all my very close friends and my family knew before I came out in January. And for me, it was just, I wasn't, who I was out there in the open. I wasn't not that I was before, but I wasn't hiding anything. What you see was what you got, and it just I felt a lot freer. I felt a lot happier, and I think that kind of filtered into my ice hockey game as well. I felt much more able to just concentrate on hockey rather than everything that's going on in my head. So yeah, like it changed my life massively. And yeah, to kind of be cliche about it, it was that massive. And I don't think anyone really understands how big it is unless you've been through it yourself. But that just massive weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I love that so much, and it's so true. I mean, it changes your life. How did you get into hockey?
I was probably the most hyperactive little child you'd ever meet. So my parents were fed up with me running around the house causing chaos at 2 a.m. in the morning when I was 5-6 years old. So their solution to that was to make me play every single sport in the world that you can possibly imagine. So I would be, I think I played something like 12 or 13 sports when I was younger. And ice hockey just was the one that stuck. So I went to roller hockey practice. So my brother played roller hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of me sat at home doing nothing, I had to put my roller skates on and go and watch. And I'd skate around and waste my energy. Then I started playing roller hockey, and then my roller hockey coach said, "Have you ever thought about playing ice hockey?" And I still remember my response this day was kind of like, "Ice hockey? Like, that's not a sport. You've just made that up." But yeah, then it kind of went to the first trial, and then it just kind of I was down the rabbit hole. I wasn't coming back.
So what do you love about it?
I think it's a team atmosphere. Like I said, I played a lot of team sports, played a lot of individual sports growing up. It's the only sport that I've played in that team camaraderie is just unrivaled in any other sport. When I came, I won't lie, I was absolutely terrified to come out to my teammates, let alone to the wider audience. And their response was, great, like, we got your back. Like, anything happens, like it's that second family away from home. And it's a bit of a cliche, but it's true. Like, that you turn up, especially in the UK, because we have quite a big turnover of players. You turn up as 20 strangers at the beginning of the season, and then at the end of the season, the WhatsApp groups don't die. They carry on for years, and you keep in contact with everyone. And it's that team camaraderie is just unbeatable. That's probably the thing I like about it the most.
I love that. And especially being you with your identity, always humanizing it essentially for new people is also really cool.
Yeah.
Because the turnover playing in Europe, right? There is so much turnover with North American players.
Yeah.
How could hockey be better for you as a bisexual man and also the queer community at large?
I think hockey is doing a lot more than other sports is. Other sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want people to think and share how they think it can improve.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I got all the answers. My main reason for coming out was to help other people going through similar situations. But I think the biggest thing for me, and this is, before I came out, I didn't really notice this as much as I do now. But just the education about language. I've heard quite a few times over the last year the F word, gay being used as an insult, and all these kinds of things. And I just think that actually, you wouldn't say that about. I just think that there needs to be better education for the language. There are literally millions of ways of telling someone that you don't like them without using a homophobic slur. And I just I call it out now, and I say, well, what's wrong with being gay? What's wrong with that? And then it's, oh, I didn't mean it like that. And so, well, how did you mean it? And then they kind of realize that actually that language is wrong. But yeah, there's so little. You never know what other people in your dressing room are going through, and you using that kind of language could set someone back on their journey so much. And it's not hard not to use homophobic language. There was an incident in the Elite League last year and I think that's another thing. I think that it's all well and good doing the Pride events, doing the Pride weekends, and doing Pride tape and all these great things. They're really progressive as far as sports go. But actually, doing all of that and not, when something is reported and you don't act upon it, well, actually, the rest of your Pride events, using Pride tape, that's all wasted because you're not actually doing anything behind the scenes to make it any better. You're putting on a front that we're inclusive, but actually you're not making it more inclusive for LGBT plus people. So I think there needs to be more effort put in behind the scenes, and that's not a knock on anyone in particular. I just think in general. But I think the big thing is, it's not. I think once you got to adult hockey, it's too late. I think it needs to be put in right at the, when children start out playing ice hockey, that this language is unacceptable. I wouldn't dream of saying the N-word ever in my life. Why is that not the same as homophobic language? I wouldn't use racial slurs, so why would people use homophobic slurs? And I not to compare the two in any way, but
right.
There needs to be action taken upon people that use homophobic slurs because it is so damaging to people going through whatever journey they're going through.
And beyond that, I mean, everywhere I go speak, whether it's sports teams or schools or colleges, universities, you name it, at least 90% of the people know somebody who's part of the LGBTQ plus community. Yeah. So you're actually probably hurting somebody in your life.
Yep.
Indirectly, because language spreads, and so indirectly you're probably hurting people. I love that. That's my biggest message and always has been. So I feel you completely. I think the experiences I've had have been very similar to that. Knowing what you hear and experience in the sport, and I know it's your job, but what keeps you in hockey?
You know, I think a lot of hockey players get to a certain point where it's kind of becomes a necessity to play. They don't really have many other qualifications. You know, their whole life has been hockey. I know mine has. I don't have a degree, so actually, life after hockey is looking kind of bleak. Fortunately, I'm not at that stage. I'm still playing because I feel like I still have something to prove, not necessarily to anyone but myself. I feel like I can still get better. I feel like I can still, hopefully, one day make the GB squad again. You know, personal goals that I've set myself, but also the team goals. I was very fortunate to be playing in multiple teams in the league below that won trophies, and apart from the conferences, I've kind of missed the elite league trophies. So I want to help my team to win those trophies. You know, I'm never going to play in a Stanley Cup. I've come to grips with that fact. But you know, I can win. I can help my team win the British version of that. And I think the biggest thing is I just still love it. Putting the kit on still makes me happy. I could have had the worst day of my life. I go to the rink and put my kit on, and it puts a smile on my face still. I think that's the biggest thing. I still love playing hockey.
It's interesting you say that, because when I was struggling with my sexuality and playing major, junior, and pro and everything else, the only time I felt okay was when I was on the ice.
Yep. I had a player. He was my D partner when I first went to Slough, and my dad's mum had unfortunately gone into hospital with lung cancer, and I was 16 years old. It was I was 17 years old, my first professional team that I played for, and I was absolutely distraught. I couldn't play hockey. I was an absolute wreck on the ice, and he pulled me aside and he said, "What's up?" And I told him, and he said, "That's horrible to hear. I'm sorry to hear that, but don't bring it on the ice." You know, you could get 6 speeding tickets on the way to the rink. You could have had a huge argument with your partner. You could have broken up with your partner. You could have written off your car. Anything could have happened. But when you step on the ice with your teammates, you can just forget about it all. And it's just ice hockey for however long you're on the ice. And that's something that always stuck with me. It's probably the one piece of advice that I value the most. And that kind of made me realize that in November last year, when I kind of accepted myself for who I was, that I couldn't do that anymore. I couldn't separate my life from hockey. And I realized that it was something that I would have to address head on. Otherwise it would end with me not playing hockey anymore, which is something that I didn't want to do. So yeah, it kind of took a soul searching moment, if you like, to kind of realize that actually now is the time. I'm 25 years old at the time, and was I 25? But yeah, it was. I kind of realized that, you know, I'm 25. I feel like I've established myself as a reliable elite league defenseman, and as bad as this sounds, you know, when I was younger, I don't think society is at the stage that it was now 10, 11 years ago. But equally, I think if I come out as a 16-year-old, and I hope this isn't true, but I feel like it would have damaged my chances to play in the elite league.
Oh, 100%. And
I kind of realized that actually when I was in a position to stop that from happening to anyone else.
Yeah.
You know, I'd established myself as an elite league defenseman, and I can come out and say, well, I'm bisexual, so what's stopping anyone else from doing it? yeah, that was kind of where I got to. So yeah.
I love it. I love it so much. What gives you hope for queer people in the sport?
Things like this, people talking about it. You know, the NHL is and always will be the biggest league for ice hockey in the world, and it's actively doing pride events. It's actively using pride tape. I think it now has a zero tolerance ban on homophobic language. And you know, a lot of leagues take their lead from the NHL. I know our rule set for the Elite League is exactly the same as the NHL's. So I think that gives me a lot of hope that the kind of biggest organizations are starting to realize that they need to proactively make the LGBT plus community feel included. And I think just individual cases, you know, like yourself, like Yannick Duplessis.
Yes.
I think people like that just show that your sexuality, your gender identity is not important. You know, we play we play a child sport, right? We get paid to play a child sport.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the entertainment business. All that matters in the entertainment business is the ability to put on a good show for everyone who's paying to watch. So where does gender identity or sexuality fit into that conversation?
Yeah, it really shouldn't. And you know, that's always been the reality. But you know, we'll get there. We'll get there to the point.
I feel like there are people who are making their voices heard, and I feel like all big changes start with a few people, start with a couple of people, and it snowballs and it picks up traction. And I feel like that's what this movement is doing. I resent the fact that it needs to happen, but the fact of the matter is that it does. But yeah, I feel like we're heading in the right direction, but there's still a hell of a lot more to do.
Well, I'll tell you this. You give me hope for a number of reasons. Unapologetically being yourself. Having the courage to sit in a room with 20 men or 20 plus men and be you. The fact that you have so many, it's such a turnover over there, and with so many North American players.
Yep.
And they're coming back, and when they're done playing, they're not leaving hockey. Yep. They're going to be coaches. They're going to be managers. They're going to coach their children's teams. Most of their children are going to play the sport. And you've humanized it for each and every one of them.
Yep.
You've put a face to something that now they will be like, no, that's not cool. And instead of them using that language with their kids or their kids, the teams they coach, et cetera, they'll hopefully start preventing that language. And that's because of you. So you give me hope.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I can speak about my experiences. I'm more than happy to do that. I'm more than happy to talk about my life. And by no means me sitting here am I saying to other people going through their own journeys that they should come out right now. That's not what I'm simply just trying to, like you say, humanize it. And the biggest thing for me was when I was 16, I feel like if there was someone out in hockey that I could look up to, it would have made my journey a lot easier. And that's the only goal I have ever had. You know, it wasn't for my own personal well-being. I was absolutely fine being who I was before I came out after November. My friends and family accepted it, my teammates accepted it, and it was an opportunity to kind of, you know, we're not as big as ice hockey players in the States or Canada. So it was, you know, we have a slightly raised social media platform for the 10, 15, 20 years, if we're lucky, that we play this sport. And I just felt that it was the best opportunity to reach the biggest number of people that needed to hear it. So yeah, it's like none of this is about me. It's a message that I think we all share, that we're all very, very passionate about, and I'm just trying to kind of do my bit to spread it as much as I can.
Yeah, it's the message is bigger than any of us. The
Yeah,
movement's bigger than any of us, but it takes all of us collectively. And that's what this is hopefully doing. It's showing so many different, like we have close to over 100 people have emailed in to take part. We have over 70 interviews booked from people all over the world, from fans to players to people who work in the sport. And it's so cool, but it's going to take all of our voices to collectively shift things.
yeah,
So I want to thank you again. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Respect the hell out of you. So grateful that you're out there.
yeah. Thanks for having me, and thank you.